Hi, Mark. I'm Mr. Bellamy, your mom's brother. I'm really sorry about your parents. As your uncle, I'm here to comfort you and let you know that I'll take care of you.
My parents had died 2 weeks earlier, and we were sitting at the funeral service. Mom always talked about her big brother, Uncle Bellamy, but for some reason, we never visited him. Now, here he was, probably the only family I had left after my parents' tragic boating accident. I tried my best to be polite to him, but the truth is, I was not in the mood to talk to anyone. After the funeral, Uncle Bellamy and his wife Terry helped me pack. They assured me that everything was going to be fine. What about Mom and Dad's stuff?
I'll take care of that, but if there's anything you need, pack it.
A few hours later, we boarded a plane and I left my life behind. That was a year ago, on one of the worst days of my life. Before I tell you what happened to me after that, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. We have a lot of cool and fun stuff for you to watch. Remember to hit the notification bell so that you're first to watch more exciting videos like this one. The Bellamys lived in a huge estate. They owned the biggest hotel in town, so money was not a problem for them. Mrs. Bellamy managed the hotel and she spent almost all her time there. She was an overly stern lady and seemed to control everything around the house. I did my best to stay out of her way. My uncle, on the other hand, rarely left home. He had a home office, but I had no idea what he did there. I saw people come and go, most of them men in expensive-looking dark suits and luxurious cars. I never dared ask him what he did for a living. He also held numerous meetings at home with these men. The weird thing about these meetings, though, was that they were all held behind closed doors and only at night. Whenever these meetings took place, my uncle would order me not to leave my room until morning. One night during one of my uncle's meetings, curiosity got the better of me. I creeped out of bed and walked towards where the meeting was taking place. I quietly stood by the door and tried to eavesdrop.
They've already dispatched the cargo. I already spoke to our client, and he's ready to receive it at the usual time and place. We're bagging a good sum this time, fellas.
I listened for a few minutes, but none of what was said made sense to me, so I turned to go back to my room.
What was that? I think someone is outside the door.
The door swung open and I froze. A man I'd never seen before stood in front of me. He looked intimidatingly huge and was, as expected, wearing a black suit.
Bellamy, I thought you said this kid would not cause any trouble.
The man was chewing a toothpick like it was his last meal. My uncle came running out of the room.
Mark, I told you never to leave your room when I have business meetings here.
I was curious. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I was trembling under the huge man's stare.
Go to sleep immediately. I'll know what to do with you tomorrow morning.
I barely slept that night, knowing that coming morning, I'd have to face my uncle and probably his wife. Breakfast was quiet. Uncle Bellamy didn't say anything about the previous night. I thought I'd gotten away with disobeying him. How naive of me. That evening after school, I found him and his wife waiting for me in the living room.
Mark, we've been taking care of you for 1 year now. I'm sorry to tell you that the money we use to cater for your education is exhausted. You'll have to start working to pay your school fees. You can continue staying here, though. We'll provide shelter.
Don't you dare tell anyone about this, or else we'll just have to kick you out for being ungrateful.
I was startled. Why would my uncle demand that I pay my fees with all his riches? I was sure that this was him punishing me for eavesdropping. That week, I found a job in a coffee shop nearby and began working a few hours after school to manage my fees. My grades began deteriorating noticeably due to exhaustion and stress. However, I was careful not to mention anything to anyone to avoid being kicked out. I wore designer clothes to school and had all the latest gadgets, phones, tablets, and laptops. I drove my uncle's sports car to work and school. He demanded that I use it to portray that he took good care of me. I wouldn't say I liked the hypocrisy, but had to play by his rules. Students craved to be associated with me because from the looks of things, I was stinking rich. Little did they know the situation at home. One evening after school, Uncle Bellamy walked into my room.
Your principal called me today. He says that you have a fee balance. What kind of shame are you subjecting me to? I'm providing everything for you. The least you can do is pay your school fees.
I'm sorry, but my pay at the coffee shop isn't enough to cover my school fees. I'm trying my best. Maybe I can get another job. Days later, my aunt informed me that she had a janitor's position for me at the hotel.
We'll pay you enough to cover your school fees. Also, I have a room for you there. You will spend nights there from now on. You'll be preparing for school in the morning at the hotel.
Indirectly, I knew they were kicking me out so I could be far away from them and whatever deals my uncle was making at the house. I began juggling between school and work at the hotel. After school, I'd attend my night shift and only get a maximum of 3 hours of sleep. During the day, I seemed very well polished and loaded with money, but I would fall back to being the janitor at night. One day, the hotel manager informed me that all rooms had been occupied and no room was left for me to spend the night. I decided to go to the estate and sleep after my shift.
What are you doing here?
My aunt nearly spat at me when I walked into the house. The hotel rooms were all occupied. I figured I'd come home to rest before waking up for school.
This is no longer your home. There's a reason we asked you to spend the nights at the hotel, Mark. Go back.
That day, I realized that I was homeless. I went back to the hotel, exhausted. From that night, whenever the hotel was full, I was forced to sleep on the hotel's restaurant seats and other times in the kitchen. I'd prepare for school in the morning and act like nothing was happening. When my uncle had a family or business event, he ensured I was present and pretended to cater to my needs. He even bought me new clothes for such events. My aunt would also act to love me and called me her son. One evening while on my usual janitorial duty, something on TV caught my attention. A photo of a man filled the screen, with the words "Wanted" written below his image. He looked familiar, and I took a keen look trying to recollect where I'd seen him before. I dropped my bucket and mop in utter shock. This was the same man I saw at Uncle Bellamy's the night they caught me eavesdropping. I'd recognize that intimidating stare anywhere. The poster said his name was Johnny Soprano. Interestingly, there was a $1 million reward for information leading to the man's arrest. I quickly took out my phone and wrote down the contact information provided on the screen. I, however, didn't make the phone call out of fear. Every day for the next week, I looked at the phone number but never made the call. Days passed by and life at the hotel got harder. I thought about the $1 million reward. All I had to do was make the call and I'd get the money. I could use it to get back to my hometown and start a new life. I eventually gathered enough courage and called the number. "Hi, this is Mark. I know where you can find Johnny Soprano." I felt like my heart was stuck in my throat.
How do you know him?
A serious-sounding lady asked. "I saw him at my uncle's home. I think he's one of my uncle's business associates, and they often hold meetings at my uncle's home."
And what's your uncle's name? And where does he live?
I answered all her questions nervously. "But please don't tell my uncle I told you this. I'm already in trouble with him."
Be calm. You have done the right thing, Mark. Thank you for the information and for the courage to call. We will take it from here. Also, we advise you to be careful. Mr. Soprano is a very dangerous man. Stay safe. And in case of anything, don't hesitate to call us. As soon as an arrest is made, you'll be contacted regarding the reward money.
Okay, thank you. I'll be careful. Days passed by and I didn't hear from the lady or the FBI. I began wondering whether my call was any help at all. That weekend, I received a call from my aunt.
Hey Mark, we're hosting a party at home tomorrow, and we'd like you to be present. Your uncle has already ordered your suit for the event, so don't bother looking for an outfit.
Okay, I'll be there. I had so many thoughts after that call. Had my uncle found out about my call to the FBI? If yes, what would he do to me when I showed up at his house? Was the party a trap for me? I quickly dismissed that. It couldn't be a trap. He didn't need to host a party to capture me. All he had to do was come to the hotel and find me. Then I'd never be seen or heard from again. I was going crazy. Before I could stop myself, I dialed the FBI tip line number again.
Good evening, Mark. What can I do for you?
How could you be so calm? I was sweating through my shirt. I think my uncle knows. His wife just called to invite me to a party at their house tomorrow. Why haven't you arrested Johnny yet? Is my uncle a bad guy? What?
Mark, stop talking. We're aware of the party. Also be careful what you say on the phone from now on. Someone could be listening.
What? They know I'm talking to you? I knew I shouldn't have called you. I have to leave town now.
Please don't do that. We don't want your uncle to suspect anything. We need you to attend the party and act normally.
But what if...
Don't worry, Mark. Nothing will happen to you.
Easy for her to say. She wasn't the one betraying a man so dangerous he was wanted by the FBI. On the day of the party, I showed up at my uncle's home. I was more on the lookout for Johnny than I was interested in the party. I didn't see him anywhere, so I relaxed and began to enjoy myself.
Johnny, I'm so glad you could make it.
At the sound of my uncle's voice, I turned around fast, and there he was. The man who, for the last few days, was the main character in my nightmares.
You always throw the best parties, Bellamy. How could I miss it?
Both men clapped each other's shoulders and laughed. The party was outside, so I discreetly walked into the house, which was mostly empty except for the people my uncle hired to cater for the party. I looked for an empty room and called the tip line number again. "He's here," I whispered.
We know. Our agents are already at the house, and they've made a positive identification. It's almost over, Mark.
I was so relieved. "Okay, thank you." I was hit hard on the back of my head and fell. I looked up at my attacker and was shocked to see my aunt standing there, a golf club in her hand.
I knew you were trouble from the first day you came to live with us. Bellamy should have just left you behind like I asked him to,
she said sternly. She grabbed my phone and dragged me towards the closet, threw me in and locked the closet door. She left the room and banged the door behind her. I pushed the closet door so hard, but it didn't budge, so I sat in there and waited for my fate. About an hour later, the closet door swung open and I closed my eyes in fear. "Please don't hurt me."
Hello, Mark. Please come with me.
I opened my eyes at the sound of the familiar voice. Principal Evans? I looked at my school principal in confusion. Not only was he at my uncle's house, he was wearing a jacket with FBI written in big yellow letters. I don't understand.
I know this is confusing to you, but I'll answer your questions as soon as you're safe.
Mr. Evans and another lady dressed similarly led me outside the house to one of the many cars outside. As we left the estate, I tried to get a glimpse of my uncle and aunt, but I didn't see them. Mr. Evans told me that they'd been arrested together with Johnny and several others at the party. He also told me that he was an undercover agent.
We've been investigating your uncle for months, but we never knew he was doing deals with Johnny.
So what will happen now?
For starters, you're going to leave town. Arrangements are being made as we speak.
Where will I go?
That's a secret. Nobody can know, not even me.
All my uncle and aunt's property was seized, and they lost everything under their name. Before I left town, Mr. Evans told me that they'd be going to jail for a long time. Over the next few weeks, my life was like a movie. I was given a new identity and moved to a different city. I wish I could tell you where, but for my own safety, I can't. Oh, I was also $1 million richer.